You've entered void of rules, where chaos reigns and darkness consumes all. In this twisted realm where all laws have crumbled, only one rule remains, and those who break it are cast into eternal digital oblivion. The rule is simple: subscribe. We're almost at 9,000 corrupted souls, but the void hungers for more. Our goal is 10,000 subscribers before this year bleeds into darkness. Will you join our legion, or face the consequences of defying the void? Now let's dive into today's story. My name is Father Dominic Ashford, and I need to tell someone what I've seen before it's too late. Before they come for me too. I'm sitting in a confession booth right now, but I'm alone. Just me and this recording device. My hands won't stop shaking. Haven't stopped for 3 years. The rosary beads click against each other, a sound that used to comfort me. Now it just reminds me of counting seconds in a place where time has no meaning. You've seen exorcisms on screen, but you've never witnessed anything like this. Deep within the Vatican's secret archives lies the terrifying truth of a new, unprecedented mission. An exorcist tasked with the impossible, bringing back souls that have been taken. Prepare yourself, because the chilling details of this unique assignment will haunt your every thought. I was trained at the Collegio since I was 19. Exorcism wasn't something I chose. It chose me after my first encounter with genuine possession in Edinburgh. I was assisting Father Thomas Macready, my mentor, with what should have been a routine case. A teenage girl who'd been experimenting with occult practices. We thought we knew what we were dealing with. We were wrong. The thing inside that girl wasn't just a demon. It was something older, something that knew our names before we spoke them. It looked at me through her eyes and said, "The boy can see us. The boy can feel the empty places." Father Macready finished the exorcism, but he died 3 days later. Heart attack, they said. But I saw his face before he died. He looked terrified, like he glimpsed something waiting for him on the other side. After that night, I could see them. The things that cling to desperate souls. Shadows that moved against the light. Cold spots that followed certain people like faithful dogs. My curse became my calling. I performed exorcisms across Europe for 10 years. I was good at it, maybe too good. I had a 93% success rate, which is unheard of in this field. Other exorcists would ask me how I did it, and I could never explain. I just knew where the demon was hiding, where it had pushed the person's soul aside. I could feel the empty spaces. It was a Thursday night in October 2019. I was in my apartment in London around 11:47, reading through case files from a possession in Manchester. I heard nothing. No knock. No footsteps in the hallway. No sound of the building's old elevator. But when I looked up from my notes, there was an envelope on my floor, just inside the door. It hadn't been there 30 seconds earlier. I know because I have a habit of checking the door every few minutes when I'm working late. Occupational paranoia. The wax seal caught the lamplight, a papal insignia, but not one I recognised. An eye surrounded by thorns. My hands trembled slightly as I broke the seal. The letter was handwritten in Latin, on parchment that felt ancient under my fingertips, like it might crumble if I held it too tightly. The translation made my blood run cold. Father Ashford, your presence is required for a matter of sanctum animarum. Come alone, speak to no one, destroy this letter. You have 48 hours. Archbishop Pietro Valente. Sanctum animarum. I'd heard whispers of this term in the oldest texts, but never from anyone living. It appeared in exactly 3 manuscripts in my personal collection, always in the margins, always scratched out or written so small you needed a magnifying glass. I spent the next 2 hours searching through every resource I had. Found almost nothing. One ancient reference in a forbidden text locked in my personal safe, the sacred protocol of souls, enacted only when the barrier between living and dead grows permeable. I burned the letter as instructed, watching the parchment curl and blacken in my kitchen sink. The flames turned blue, bright and cold like burning methane. That should have been my first warning to run. Instead, I booked a flight to Rome. The journey felt wrong from the start. I kept seeing the same person, a figure in a grey coat at Heathrow, sitting 3 rows behind me on the plane, standing at the taxi queue at Fiumicino. They were tall and thin, and every time I tried to get a good look at their face, they would turn away, or a crowd would shift between us. Every time I turned to confront them, they were gone, just vanished into the crowd like smoke. I arrived at the Vatican at 4:30 in the morning. The streets were empty, except for a single monk, waiting at a side entrance I'd never noticed before, despite years of visiting Rome. The door was small, barely 5 feet tall, set into the wall like an afterthought. He wore a blank white mask, the kind plague doctors used to wear but without the beak. No expression, no eye holes visible, just smooth white porcelain. He didn't speak, didn't acknowledge my questions, just gestured for me to follow. We walked through passages I'd never seen, corridors that didn't appear on any map or tour guide. No electric lights here, just oil lamps mounted in iron brackets that cast dancing shadows on stone walls. The flames moved wrong, flickering against drafts that weren't there. The walls were covered in frescoes depicting scenes I didn't recognize from any biblical text. Priests battling smoke-like entities that poured from the mouths of children. Souls trapped in grey voids reaching toward light they could never touch. In one image, a figure with too many arms pulled glowing shapes from human chests while others watched and wept. Then we started descending. A stone staircase spiralling down into the earth, the steps worn smooth by centuries of feet. I counted under my breath, trying to maintain some sense of orientation. 12 floors below ground. 13. 14. The air grew heavy, difficult to breathe, like the atmosphere was pressing down with physical weight. My ears popped from the pressure. The temperature dropped steadily with each level, until my breath misted in front of my face, white clouds in the lamplight. At level 17, I saw words carved into the stone in Latin, the letters deep and ancient. Terminus animarum, the end of souls. Below that, in smaller script, words that made my skin crawl. Abandon memory, all ye who descend further. The masked monk pushed open a massive iron door that must have weighed half a ton, but he moved it effortlessly, as if it were made of paper. The hinges made no sound. The room beyond was a perfect circle carved from a single piece of stone, the walls seamless and smooth. The ceiling curved into a dome high above, and the acoustics were strange. Every sound seemed both amplified and muffled at the same time. The walls were lined with locked iron boxes, hundreds of them, each labelled with dates going back to 400 AD. Some of the boxes had multiple locks. Some had warning symbols I didn't recognise. In the centre of the room sat a round table made of black wood, polished to a mirror shine, with 7 high-backed chairs. 4 were already occupied. The eldest was Archbishop Pietro Valente. He looked to be in his 80s, thin as a rail, with skin like aged parchment stretched over bone. But his eyes were what struck me. Dark and sharp, and filled with a knowledge that seemed too heavy for one person to carry. Next to him sat Father Leonid Volkov, a Russian priest in his 50s with a scarred face that looked like he'd been dragged across broken glass. His left hand only had 3 fingers, the other 2 just stumps that had healed badly. Sister Catherine Brennan, an Irish nun in her 60s, sat perfectly still, with her hands folded on the table. Her eyes were completely white, milky and blind, but somehow I felt her gaze on me as I entered. Dr. Hugo Laurent, a Belgian theologian who looked like he hadn't slept in days, was frantically writing notes in the margins of an ancient text, his hand shaking slightly. "Father Ashford," Pietro said, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. It was a beautiful voice, rich and resonant, but with an undertone of deep sadness. "Thank you for your discretion. What we discuss here is known by exactly 11 people in the entire church. You are about to become the 12th. I sat in one of the empty chairs. The wood was cold beneath me, cold enough that I could feel it through my clothes. Leonid lit 7 black candles and arranged them in a specific pattern around the table, a 7-pointed star I'd never seen in any ritual. Catherine began praying in ancient Gaelic, her voice creating an audible pressure in the room, like standing too close to a speaker. Hugo explained it was a protective ward against eavesdropping, both physical and spiritual. "Nothing can hear what we say in this circle," he said. "Not the walls, not the air, not even God himself if we so choose." Hugo unlocked an iron box with a key that hung around his neck and removed a leather-bound journal that looked like it might crumble to dust at any moment. The leather was cracked and darkened with age, and there were stains on the cover that might have been blood. "Tell me, Father Ashford," Pietro began, choosing each word carefully like he was defusing a bomb. "What do you know of empty vessel syndrome?" "Nothing. I've never heard the term." "Good. That means our containment is held. For now." Pietro glanced at the others and some unspoken communication passed between them. "What I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest level. Popes have died without knowing these secrets. Cardinals have been mind-wiped to forget them. We are trusting you with information that could shatter the faith of millions if it became public." Hugo opened the journal carefully and showed me sketches from 1347. Human figures drawn with hollow chest cavities, the ribs spread open like cage bars. Faces frozen in silent screams, mouths open, impossibly wide. Eyes drawn as empty circles, darker than the paper around them. The detail was extraordinary and deeply disturbing. These weren't symbolic drawings or artistic representations. They were observations, clinical and precise, like medical illustrations. Pietro continued, "When a demon possesses, the soul is pushed aside, but remains tethered to the body. The person can be saved through exorcism, because the soul is still there, just suppressed. But in these cases..." He paused, letting the silence build. "The soul is removed entirely, ripped from the body and dragged somewhere else, somewhere between life and death, somewhere we call the drowning grey." The temperature in the room dropped another 10 degrees. The candle flames bent sideways, all pointing toward the center of the table. Hugo spread more documents across the black wood, cases from across centuries, written in different languages and different hands. The first recorded incident was from a monastery in Egypt in 412 AD. A monk named Brother Theophilus was found alive in his cell, breathing normally, pulse steady, but completely unresponsive. His fellow monks attempted to pray his soul back, conducting rituals day and night for 2 weeks. All 7 monks who participated went mad within a month. One clawed his own eyes out. Another walked into the desert and was never found. The rest died in various horrific ways. Theophilus himself died of starvation 6 weeks after being found, his body simply giving up despite being fed through a tube. Cases appear in clusters throughout history, Hugo explained, his academic tone barely masking the fear underneath. The Dark Ages saw 17 cases across Europe in a 10-year period. The Black Death brought 43 cases. The Spanish Inquisition documented 12, but not one successful retrieval until 1483. Catherine spoke for the first time, her blind eyes seeming to stare directly into my soul. Her voice was soft, but commanded absolute attention. Father Alessandro Grimaldi, an Italian priest from Florence, the first to bring a soul back from the drowning grey. Leonid produced another journal from a different box, this one written entirely in code. The pages were filled with symbols and ciphers that hurt to look at for too long. Took Vatican cryptographers 200 years to partially decode it. We still don't understand all of it. Grimaldi described a method, a way to enter the drowning grey while still living, a way to walk between worlds. Catherine recited from memory, her voice taking on a rhythmic quality, like she was channeling the words from somewhere else. To retrieve the lost, one must become lost. To walk the drowning grey is to surrender life without dying, to exist between breaths, between heartbeats. The soul anchors the body like a ship to harbour. Cut this anchor deliberately, and you may swim to where others have been dragged. But beware, for the anchor must be held by another, or you will drift forever in that grey sea. 4 other priests tried Grimaldi's method over the next century, Leonid said grimly, his scarred face twisting with old pain. 2 never woke up. Their bodies breathed for 3 days, then stopped. 1 woke screaming, and never stopped, even after his vocal cords tore. He died 6 weeks later, still screaming silently. 1 succeeded. Father Wilhelm in 1498 brought back a child's soul from the grey. But he killed himself 3 days later, left a note written in his own blood. It knows where I live now. It knows my name. It whispers to me in the dark. I can feel it getting closer. Pietro let that information settle in the cold air before continuing. We stopped attempting retrievals in 1502. Too dangerous. For 5 centuries, when empty vessel cases appeared, we recorded them, blessed the victim, provided comfort to the family, and let nature take its course. They always died within weeks. Always. The body cannot survive without the soul indefinitely. He paused, and I saw genuine fear in his ancient eyes. Fear that had been living there for a long time. Then, last year, everything changed. Hugo produced modern photographs, the jarring shift from ancient parchment to glossy photo paper, somehow making it worse. 6 children, ages 6 to 11, from 6 different countries, all in hospital beds with tubes and wires, keeping them alive. Eyes open, but completely vacant, like looking into the eyes of a department store mannequin. The photos were dated, showing that some of these children had been in this state for months. These 6 cases appeared within 8 months of each other. Before this, we'd see 1 case every 5 to 7 years. Always isolated, always random. This is an outbreak. This is an epidemic. Something has changed. My mouth was dry. Why me? I'm a standard exorcist. Nothing special. There are priests with more experience, more training. Catherine laughed, a bitter sound that echoed strangely in the circular room. You have no idea, do you? You truly don't know what you are. She reached across the table and took my hand in hers. Her skin was cold as ice, cold as something dead. Be silent, clear your mind completely. Don't think, don't analyze. Just tell me what you feel. I closed my eyes and focused on the sensation of her hand in mine. At first, just cold skin and bones. But then I felt something else, something missing. Like touching a photograph of a person instead of the person themselves. An echo. A shell. I gasped and tried to pull away, but her grip was iron. You're empty. No, not empty. You're hollow, like an echo of a person. Something fundamental is missing from you. Catherine released my hand and sat back. 23 years ago, I was the 7th case in a cluster. I was 9 years old in a small village in Ireland. I went to sleep one night and simply never woke up properly. My body breathed. My heart beat. But I was gone. Father Leonid retrieved my soul when other priests said it was impossible. But something happened during the retrieval. A piece of me never came back. The part that could see with eyes, perhaps. or maybe something more fundamental that I don't have words for. I adapted, learned to navigate the world without sight, but I'm not complete. I'll never be complete again. Leonid leaned forward, his three-fingered hand flat on the table. You can sense spiritual absence. This is extraordinarily rare. 1 in perhaps 10 million clergy members, maybe fewer. We've been searching for someone with this gift for 3 years. Dominic, you can feel the holes where souls should be. You don't just sense demons during possessions. You sense exactly where the person's soul is being suppressed, where it's hiding, and you instinctively guide it back to fullness. You've been doing this your entire career without understanding why you're so successful. Pietro nodded slowly. We've been watching you for 3 years. Every exorcism you've performed, we've had observers present. Hidden among the family members, the medical staff, even other priests you worked with, you have a 93% success rate because you have a gift that shouldn't exist. Alessandro Grimaldi had this gift, Hugo added, flipping through the coded journal. So did Wilhelm. We believe this sensitivity is the only reason they could navigate the drowning grey and find specific souls among the countless lost ones who wander there. Without this ability, you'd be blind in that place. You'd be searching forever in infinite fog for one particular grain of sand. Pietro produced another photograph, this one printed just hours ago. The ink was still slightly tacky. We need you to attempt retrieval on these 6 children. If this is truly an outbreak, if something fundamental has changed in the nature of these cases, we must understand why. We must try to save them. Each day they remain lost. Their souls fade further. Eventually they'll fade completely, become permanent residents of the grey. We're running out of time. He slid the photo across the table. A young boy, maybe 8 years old, found in his bedroom in Naples just hours ago. Someone had captured the moment his mother found him. The woman's face was a mask of pure horror, but it was the boy's eyes that made my stomach turn, completely void of life, reflecting light like glass marbles, dead eyes in a living face. As of 3 hours ago, we now have 7 cases. 7 children whose souls are trapped in the drowning grey. 7 families praying for a miracle, and you, Father Ashford, might be that miracle. Or you might be the 12th name we add to the list of people who entered the grey and never truly came back. Over the next 3 days, they taught me things that should have remained buried in those iron boxes forever. Things the human mind wasn't meant to know. I slept in a cell on level 18, deeper than the archive, in a room with no windows and walls that seemed to absorb sound. The silence was so complete I could hear my own heartbeat, loud as thunder in the darkness. Leonid was my primary instructor. We met in a chamber even deeper than the archive, at level 22. I didn't know the Vatican went that deep. I didn't know anything went that deep. The chamber was carved from raw bedrock, and you could feel the weight of the entire city pressing down from above. It felt like being buried alive. The drowning grey is not a place, he told me, his scarred face inches from mine, so I couldn't look away. It's a state of being. The space between the last breath and the first death. The moment of transition, frozen and stretched into eternity. You enter it by dying without dying. He unbuttoned his shirt and showed me his chest. Burn marks in a ritual pattern covered his torso. Old scars that had never properly healed. They were raised and shiny, and in the lamplight they almost seemed to move. These are from the anchoring ritual. The tether burns if you fight it, and everyone fights it. Your body knows you're dying, and it panics. Every survival instinct screams at you to stop, to breathe, to live. You have to override millions of years of evolution and willingly step into death. Time there is treacherous, he continued, and his voice dropped to almost a whisper. 5 minutes here can be 5 hours there, or 5 seconds. Time moves based on perception and fear. If you're terrified, time stretches. If you forget yourself, if you forget you're alive, it can snap shut and centuries can pass in heartbeats. Stay too long and you forget your body. Forget you were ever alive. Forget you have a name. You become another lost soul wandering forever. I've seen it happen. I've watched souls I was trying to retrieve fade before my eyes because they'd been there too long. They couldn't remember why they should come back. Couldn't remember what back even meant. Catherine taught me about the tether over the course of 8 hours, never stopping, never breaking. She produced a braided rope made of human hair, blessed silver threads, and silk that shimmered with colours that didn't quite exist. It looked ancient and impossibly delicate, like it might fall apart if you breathed on it wrong. This is over 600 years old. Grimaldi made it himself. The hair is from saints and martyrs. The silver was blessed by 3 different popes. The silk came from the Shroud of Turin before it was destroyed in the fire of 1532, salvaged and preserved. One end ties to you, one to your anchor. The anchor must maintain constant physical contact with you and recite the Psalm of Return every 3 minutes. Not 2 minutes, not 4, exactly 3. If they stop, if they lose count, if they falter even once, you're lost. Your soul will wander the grey until your body dies, and then you'll wander it forever. She demonstrated the proper knots, her blind fingers moving with absolute precision. The anchor must be someone who loves you, or someone who has been where you're going, ideally both. The emotional connection strengthens the tether, makes it harder for things in the grey to cut it, and believe me, they will try. The entities there hate the tether. It reminds them of what they've lost. It shows them the door they can no longer find. Hugo presented 3 items on black velvet cloth in a ceremony that felt more like a funeral than a gift-giving. The items were arranged in a specific order, and he made me memorize their positions before I could touch them. The first was a small vial of oil, no bigger than my thumb. The glass was ancient and slightly warped, and the oil inside was dark gold and moved slowly, like honey. This contains 3 drops of chrism oil blessed by every pope since 1483, every single one. The oil has been passed down and added to, growing more potent with each blessing. In the drowning grey, blessed items are your only light. Everything else is darkness. Everything else is lies. This oil burns entities like acid. Use it wisely. Once the 3 drops are gone, you have no weapon. The second was a silver medallion, depicting a saint I didn't recognize. A woman with flowing hair standing in waves of grey, one hand raised toward the sky, and one pointed down toward the earth. Saint Christina, the Navigator. She's not in any official canon. The church erased her. She claimed to walk between worlds, said she could guide lost souls home. We burned her for heresy in 1278 in Umbria, tied her to a stake and set her on fire while she laughed and said we'd need her help someday. Turned out she was telling the truth. Her martyrdom created a spiritual anchor point. Apply 1 drop of oil to this medallion while in the grey, and it will guide you towards lost souls. It pulls you towards spiritual absence like a compass pulls toward north. The third item was a leather cord with a single white stone. The stone was smooth and roughly the size of a coin, and it seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Looking at it too long made my eyes water. This is from Grimaldi's original equipment. We don't know what stone it is. Tests show it's not from Earth. The composition doesn't match anything in the periodic table. Where it came from, how he got it, the journals don't say. He only mentions it once, the stone that remembers home. But every successful retrieval used this exact stone. Keep it on your person, against your skin. When you're ready to return, hold it and remember your name. Remember you're alive. Remember someone is waiting for you. The stone will remember for you if you forget. Pietro gave me the final warning on the last day of training, in the circular chamber surrounded by all the others. It felt like a trial, like I was being judged by something beyond human understanding. Dominic, you must understand something. Things exist in the drowning grey. We don't know what they are. Demons? Souls so corrupted they've become something else? Spirits that were never human to begin with. The journals describe them as the Wailing Ones and the Silent Kings. They hunger for living souls. A living soul in the grey is like a flame in absolute darkness. They can sense you from vast distances. If they realise you're alive, they will hunt you. They will do everything in their power to keep you there, to extinguish your light, to make you one of them. Leonid added quietly, staring at nothing. And there's something else. Something bigger than the entities. Catherine and I both sensed it during our experiences. A presence that feels ancient beyond comprehension. Vast beyond measuring. Like standing at the bottom of an ocean and knowing something enormous swims in the deep, but you cannot see it. You can only feel the displacement of water, the shadow it casts, the weight of its attention. Catherine finished the thought, and her blind eyes seemed to weep without producing tears. It's aware, Dominic. It thinks, it plans, it learns, and we believe it's been getting stronger. These cluster cases, they're not random, they're not natural. Something is taking these souls deliberately. Something is hunting children, and we're about to go into its hunting ground and steal its prey. It won't like that. It won't like that at all. We travelled to Naples on October 23rd. The family, the Romanos, lived in a private villa outside the city, surrounded by olive groves and gardens that should have been beautiful but felt oppressive under grey October skies. Wealthy enough to keep the situation quiet, connected enough that when they called the Vatican, directly, someone answered. To the outside world, their son Luca was simply in a coma. A tragic medical mystery. Only they knew the truth, and it was destroying them. Luca Romano was 8 years old. He'd been found 4 days earlier on the morning of his birthday. His mother heard him laughing in his room, the pure joyful sound of a child's laughter. Then, sudden silence, absolute silence. She said the silence was what frightened her, not any sound. She went to check on him, and he was just sitting on the floor, cross-legged, eyes open, and staring at nothing. There was an unopened birthday present in his lap, bright wrapping paper, untouched. He hadn't moved since, hadn't blinked, hadn't responded to any stimulus. He breathed, and his heart beat, and that was all. Meeting the family was harder than any exorcism I'd ever performed. Luca's father, Antonio, was a big man who looked like he'd been physically shrinking over the past 4 days. His clothes hung loose, and his eyes were sunken. He was desperate and angry at God. "Where is he?" Antonio demanded, grabbing my arm hard enough to bruise. "Where is God when children suffer? What kind of God allows this? What kind of God creates a world where a child's soul can be stolen on his birthday?" I had no answer. I still don't. His mother, Isabella, was sedated but still barely functioning. She sat in the corner of the room, rocking back and forth, and occasionally whispered her son's name like a prayer. Luca, Luca, Luca. Over and over, a litany of grief. But the grandmother, Maria, she knew. She believed immediately. When I explained what we were going to attempt, she grabbed my hands with surprising strength for someone so old. "This happened to my cousin in 1954, she told me, her weathered face inches from mine, in a village in Sicily. The priests came, but they couldn't help. They prayed and performed rituals, but nothing worked. She died 3 weeks later, and on her deathbed, her eyes moved. Just once. Just one movement in 3 weeks, like she was trying to warn us about something. Like she'd finally found the strength to send one last message. But it was too late. We didn't know what she was trying to say, but I've thought about it every day for 70 years. What was she trying to tell us? We prepared Luca's bedroom that evening as the sun set over the olive groves. All furniture was removed except his bed, creating an empty space that echoed strangely. The walls were covered with his drawings, pictures of soccer players and spaceships and his family smiling. A room full of life that now felt like a tomb. 6 black candles were arranged in a circle, the wax so dark it seemed to pull light into itself. Catherine would serve as my anchor for this first attempt. She sat in a straight-back chair, her blind eyes closed, already murmuring prayers under her breath. Leonid and Hugo would monitor and intervene if necessary. Pietro stayed downstairs with the family, praying in Latin, his voice a low drone that vibrated through the floorboards. At 8:45, as the last light faded from the windows, I lay down on the floor beside Luca's bed. The tiles were cold against my back, leaching heat from my body. The tether rope was tied around my waist in the complex knot pattern Catherine had taught me, the other end secured to her waist. She sat in the chair with her hands on my chest, directly over my heart, already reciting the Psalm of Return. Her touch was ice cold. Hugo placed the 3 sacred items on my chest. The medallion felt warm, almost alive. The stone felt cold and dead. The vial of oil felt like it was vibrating slightly, resonating with some frequency I couldn't hear, but could feel in my bones. Leonid performed the opening invocation in ancient Aramaic, words that predated Christianity, words that came from older religions the church had absorbed and hidden. I didn't understand the words, but I felt them in my bones. They made my teeth ache and my skull vibrate. The candles flickered and bent toward me, all 6 flames pointing at my body. I began the breathing technique Leonid had taught me. Slow, deliberate breaths, counting to 7 on the inhale, holding for 7, exhaling for 7. Slowing my heartbeat consciously through meditation. Hugo was monitoring my vitals on a medical device, watching the numbers drop. I heard him say my heart rate was dropping. 60 beats per minute, 50, 40, 30, 20. Should I stop him? Hugo asked, sounding panicked. No, Leonid said. This is necessary. This is the only way. My vision blurred at the edges like looking through a fogged window. Catherine's voice became distant, echoing as if from far away, her words stretching and distorting. The temperature in the room plummeted. I could see everyone's breath now, white clouds in the candlelight, but I couldn't feel myself breathing anymore. Then I felt it, the sensation of falling backward through the floor. Not physically falling, but my consciousness, my soul, being pulled down and away from my body. I had a moment of pure animal panic, every instinct screaming to fight, to hold on, to stay. This is what dying feels like, I thought. This is what everyone fears. Then I let go. The first thing you notice about the drowning grey is the silence, complete, total, absolute, like being underwater but without water. Like being deaf but knowing you're not deaf, knowing there should be sounds but there aren't any. Your ears ache from the absence of sound. Not even the sound of your own breathing. Not even your heartbeat, which you've heard every second of your life. The silence is so profound it becomes a sound itself, a ringing pressure in your head. The grey fog was so thick I could barely see my own hands in front of my face. I held them up close and could see them, pale and ghostly, but beyond a few feet, everything dissolved into uniform greyness. There was no ground beneath my feet, but I was standing somehow, or floating, or both. I couldn't tell the difference. Gravity felt optional, negotiable. I had the distinct sense that I might fall upward as easily as down, that the only thing keeping me oriented was my own expectations of how physics should work. The fog moved constantly, but there was no wind. It flowed and eddied like it had its own current. its own purpose. Sometimes it swirled around me clockwise, sometimes counterclockwise. Sometimes it pulled away, revealing empty voids of even deeper greyness. Other times it pressed in close, almost suffocating, like wet cotton against my face. I touched the medallion on my chest, fingers clumsy and numb, and applied a single drop of the blessed oil. The oil felt warm, almost hot, the first warmth I felt since entering this place. The medallion began to glow faintly, pulsing with a gentle rhythm, like a heartbeat. The pulse had direction, pulling me forward, pulling me towards something I couldn't see yet. I started walking, or floating, or both. Distance had no meaning here. I could have been walking for seconds or hours. Each step felt like it covered no ground at all, or 100 miles. Time felt thick, resistant, like moving through honey. My sense of duration was completely scrambled. Was I taking 1 step per second, or 1 step per minute? Impossible to tell. Then I saw them, figures in the fog. Indistinct at first, just darker grey shapes against the lighter grey. But as I passed closer, they resolved into people, standing motionless, silent, not moving, not breathing, just existing. All ages, all eras of clothing. A medieval peasant in rough wool stood next to a woman in a 1940s dress, with her hair done in victory rolls next to a teenage boy in modern clothes with headphone wires hanging from his ears. None of them reacted to my presence. Their eyes were open, but seeing nothing, staring at nothing, focused on infinity. Their faces were slack, expressions neutral, like they'd forgotten how to emote. These were all the souls that were never retrieved. Centuries worth of empty vessel victims, lost forever in the grey. Hundreds of them visible in every direction. Maybe thousands if I kept walking. How far did this place extend? Forever? Was it infinite? The thought made me dizzy. I stopped next to the woman in the 40s dress. "Hello, can you hear me?" No response. I waved my hand in front of her face. Nothing. I touched her shoulder gently. She was cold as ice and as substantial as the smoke. My hand went partially through her. She didn't react, didn't move, just stood there staring at nothing for eternity. The medallion's pulse grew stronger, more insistent. I kept walking, passing dozens more lost souls. A child who couldn't have been more than 5. An old man hunched with age. A pregnant woman with her hands on her belly. All of them empty. All of them forgotten. All of them waiting forever for rescue that would never come. I called out, "Luca, Luca Romano." My voice didn't echo. It just stopped, like the sound was absorbed by the fog immediately. But ahead, maybe 50 feet, or maybe 500, I saw movement. A small figure crouched low. As I approached, I saw him. A young boy, terrified, hugging his knees to his chest. He was rocking back and forth slightly, the only movement in this static place. When he saw me, when he registered that I was different from the other figures, he scrambled backward like a frightened animal. "Don't let them take me again, please, please, don't let them!" I knelt down slowly, hands out, trying not to scare him further. "Luca, my name is Father Ashford. Your mother, Isabella, sent me. I'm here to bring you home." "Home?" His voice was small, broken, rough, like he'd been screaming. Maybe he had been. I don't remember home. How long have I been here? How long? 4 days. No. He shook his head violently, tears streaming down his face. No, it's been much longer. Months, maybe years. Mama's face is gone. I can't see her face anymore when I close my eyes. I can't remember what she looks like. I can't remember what anyone looks like. I'm forgetting. Everything's going grey. Inside my head, everything's turning grey. The time dilation was even worse than Leonid had warned. 4 days had felt like months or even years to this child. The psychological damage was incalculable. Then, the fog around us began moving with purpose, not drifting randomly anymore, but swirling in patterns, forming spirals and vortices. Luca's terror spiked immediately, visible in every line of his body. "They're coming! They're coming back! I can feel them! Who's coming, Luca?" He pointed into the fog with a shaking hand. "The ones who took me. The ones who pulled me from my bed. They come back sometimes. They look at me. They touch me. I think they're deciding if they want to keep me or throw me away like garbage." The sound began. A low moan from multiple directions surrounding us. Not a human sound. Nothing human could make that sound. It resonated in my skull, making my teeth ache, making my eyes water. It was the sound of grief and hunger mixed together. A sound of bottomless need. Figures emerged from the fog slowly, deliberately. Human-shaped but wrong in every conceivable way. Tall and emaciated, their limbs too long and too thin, like someone had stretched them on a rack. Their movements were too smooth, too fluid, lacking the slight hitches and stutters of human motion. They moved like CGI characters, like something that had studied human movement but couldn't quite replicate it correctly. Their faces were visible but constantly shifting, features melting and reforming over and over. I'd see a nose, then it would slide sideways and become a mouth. Eyes would multiply, then merge. Skin would ripple like water. Their mouths open wide, impossibly wide, unhinging like snakes, but the wailing sound didn't come from there. It came from inside my head, directly into my brain, bypassing my ears entirely. 3 of them circled us slowly, studying, evaluating, moving in perfect synchronization, like a school of fish, turning together, stopping together. They were communicating somehow, sharing information, making decisions as a group. One reached toward Luca with an impossibly long arm, the limb stretching out far beyond normal proportion, fingers elongating like taffy being pulled. I stepped between them and pulled out the vial of blessed oil with trembling hands. My fingers felt numb and clumsy, and I nearly dropped it. I managed to pour a single drop onto my palm. The oil felt warm, almost hot against my skin, steaming slightly in the cold of the grey. When the entity's hand touched mine, when that cold, dead flesh made contact with the blessed oil, it recoiled violently, screaming. The sound was like metal being torn apart, like a car crash and a baby crying mixed together. Smoke rose from where I'd touched it, acrid and chemical smelling, the only smell in this odorless place. Its flesh bubbled and blackened like acid burns. The other 2 entities paused, their constant motion stopping suddenly. They retreated a few steps, reassessing the situation, communicating silently with tilts of their heads. Then, one of them spoke. Its voice was like dozens of whispers, layered together, all saying the same words, at slightly different times, creating a dissonant echo that made it hard to understand. Living flesh walks the grey, forbidden. Return, or join us forever. Choose quickly while choice remains. "I'm taking this boy home," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, trying to sound confident, despite the terror flooding my system. No home remains for him. The grey claims all who enter. Time erodes memory. Memory erodes identity. Identity erodes existence. Soon he will stand like the others. Forever. The shepherd has marked him. The shepherd marks all. The shepherd's marks are eternal. Who is the shepherd? What is the shepherd? The entity's face, already shifting, contorted into an expression of absolute terror. Its mouth opened wide and stayed open, frozen in a silent scream. The shepherd feeds. The shepherd watches. The shepherd is patient. The shepherd has no beginning. The shepherd will have no end. The shepherd is here. The shepherd is always here. The fog suddenly thickened impossibly, going from translucent to opaque in seconds. Visibility dropped to inches, I could barely see my hand in front of my face. I grabbed Luca and pulled him close against my chest. He was crying, shaking, small and fragile and terrified. "Hold on to me. Don't let go no matter what happens. Do you understand?" He nodded against my chest. I pulled out the white stone cord with my free hand and gripped it hard, feeling its cold, smooth surface against my palm. "Dominic. My name is Dominic Ashford. I am alive. I am breathing. I am in Naples, Italy. I'm in the Romano house. Catherine is holding me. I have a body. I am real." I felt it immediately. A pull backward like a fishhook behind my ribcage being yanked. The sensation of being tugged towards somewhere else, somewhere real. The entities lunged through the fog toward us. I heard them coming, that wailing sound intensifying, multiple voices joining in a chorus of hunger. One grabbed my ankle with an ice-cold hand. Its touch burned like frostbite, like liquid nitrogen on skin. I felt ice crystals forming under my skin, felt my flesh blackening and dying. The pain was exquisite, worse than anything I'd ever felt. Then Catherine's voice penetrated the grey, strong and clear and beautiful. "Dominus illuminatio mea, the Lord is my light." The pull became irresistible, like gravity multiplied 100-fold. The sensation of rushing upward through water, through clouds, through layers of reality itself. The entities were swept away, their screams fading. The fog tore apart like fabric being ripped. Reality inverted, twisted, snapped back. I gasped awake on the floor, air rushing into my lungs like I'd been drowning. Luca's body beside me was spasming violently, his small frame convulsing. His eyes were moving, rolling in his head, then focusing, seeing, processing. Life flooding back into empty eyes. His first word in 4 days was a whisper, rough and broken. "Mama?" Isabella screamed and rushed into the room, despite Pietro trying to hold her back. She grabbed her son and held him, sobbing, checking him over with frantic hands. "Luca, baby, you're back! You're back! Oh God, you're back!" Catherine collapsed beside me, falling from her chair like a puppet with cut strings. The rope burns on her hands were severe, deep and blistered, bleeding slightly. She'd held that tether so hard the rope had cut into her flesh. Leonid was checking my vitals, asking questions, his voice sounding distant and tinny. "You were gone 11 minutes. How long did it feel?" "Hours. At least 3 or 4 hours, maybe more. I couldn't tell. Time doesn't work there." Hugo was examining Luca with professional detachment, checking pulse and breathing and pupil response. His vitals are stabilizing, pulse is strong and regular, breathing normalized, brain activity spiking on the monitor. He's back, genuinely back. I tried to stand but collapsed immediately, my legs refusing to support my weight. My ankle, where the entity had grabbed me, was covered in a black mark that looked exactly like severe frostbite. The skin was mottled black and purple, the flesh underneath hard and frozen. The pain was a constant burning ache that radiated up my leg. I couldn't put any weight on it. "It will fade in a few days," Leonid said, helping me into a chair. "The mark always fades, be grateful." My fingers never grew back. He held up his 3-fingered hand. "Whatever took them permanently. Some wounds from the grey are forever." Luca was conscious but traumatized, speaking rapidly, the words tumbling out too fast. There are so many of them, lost, all lost, standing forever, and something big is watching them, something huge, something that eats. It looked at me, Father, really looked at me. It knows you came for me. It knows your name now. It said your name in my head, Dominic Ashford. It knows who you are. I felt ice in my stomach. The shepherd knew I was coming now. Knew what I could do. Knew I was a threat. The second retrieval was Elise Hoffman in Bavaria 2 weeks later. 10 years old, lost for 6 days. Hugo served as my anchor this time, his academic precision keeping the psalm of return at exact 3-minute intervals. He used a timer, never missed a beat. The grey was darker when I entered, the fog almost black in places like storm clouds instead of mist. Visibility even worse than before. I could barely see 10 feet. I found Elise quickly, the medallion pulling me straight to her, but she was surrounded by 7 Wailing Ones. They'd formed a circle around her, equidistant, perfectly spaced like points on a compass. They were waiting. They knew someone was coming. This time, they didn't attack immediately. Instead, they negotiated. "Return to the world of flesh, living one," they said in their layered, whisper voice. "Stop retrieving souls. Leave the grey forever. Seal yourself away from this place. Do this, and we release the child. Do this, and the shepherd will not hunt those you love. Do this, and everyone you know remains safe. This is mercy. This is the only mercy you will receive. No, let her go or I take her. You choose suffering then. You choose pain. You choose to watch those you love become empty vessels. So be it." What happened next was violence beyond anything I'd experienced. The Wailing Ones didn't try to take Elise. They tried to rip her soul apart. Their long fingers dug into her, pulling, stretching, attempting to rip her into pieces. She was screaming, a sound that cut through the silence of the grey like a knife. I'd never heard a sound in that place besides voices, but her scream was loud and clear and full of agony. I had to throw the blessed oil directly at them. I uncorked the vial and just flung the contents. All of it, both remaining drops. They hit 3 of the entities and their flesh dissolved like paper in fire. They collapsed into puddles of grey smoke that the fog absorbed. But 4 remained, and they were furious now. Furious in a way I didn't know non-living things could be. They came at me with speed I couldn't track, faster than thought. I grabbed Elise, gripped the stone, started saying my name. They clawed at me, their hands ice cold and burning. I felt flesh tearing on my back, felt cold fingers digging between my ribs. The pain was enormous, all-consuming. Hugo's voice, distant but clear. "Dominus illuminatio mea." The pull came. We snapped back to reality. I returned with burn marks across my back that looked like handprints. 5-fingered prints seared into my flesh like brands. They're still there now, permanent scars. The doctors said it looks like severe chemical burns. They wanted to know what chemicals I'd been exposed to. I couldn't tell them. Elise couldn't speak for 3 days afterward. She'd open her mouth and nothing would come out. Trauma-induced mutism, the doctors said. PTSD from a coma they couldn't explain. When she finally spoke, her first words were, "The big thing in the dark spoke to me while they held me. It said things. It said it wanted to meet the man who keeps stealing back its food. It said it was looking forward to tasting you." The third retrieval was the twins in Stockholm. Ingrid and Astrid Lindström, 7 years old, identical in every way. Both souls taken simultaneously while they slept in the same room, in beds placed 3 feet apart. Their mother found them both in the morning, both with empty eyes, both breathing in perfect synchronization. The first time anyone had attempted to retrieve 2 souls at once. The first time we knew the attempt was even possible. Leonid served as anchor with Catherine, providing spiritual backup, praying continuously, maintaining wards around the room. The preparation took 6 hours, double the normal time. We had to account for 2 souls, 2 tethers, 2 of everything. The grey was actively hostile from the moment I entered. I felt it immediately. The fog had currents now, powerful ones, pulling me in different directions. North, then south, then west, then north again. Trying to disorient me, trying to separate me from my sense of direction. The medallion pulled me forward, but the currents pulled me sideways. Navigation was nightmarish. The twins had been separated deliberately. I found Ingrid first, alone in the fog, crying. Then the medallion pulled me in the opposite direction towards Astrid. They were positioned far apart, maybe a mile of subjective distance, forcing me to choose, forcing me to pick one and risk losing the other. That's when I encountered the Silent Kings for the first time. They were taller than the Wailing Ones, at least 9 or 10 feet tall, maybe more, dressed in tattered robes that might have once been ceremonial, ornate, important. The fabric was grey like everything else, but with darker patterns woven in, symbols I didn't recognise. Their faces were hidden in shadow, no matter which angle you looked from. No matter how I moved, no matter where the light came from, their faces remained in perfect darkness, like the shadows were painted on, absolute and unmoving. They didn't speak, didn't make any sound, didn't move aggressively, but their presence caused crushing despair. Not fear, despair. I felt the weight of every failure I'd ever experienced. Every person I couldn't save. Every prayer that went unanswered. Every time I'd been too late, or not good enough, or not strong enough. All of it flooded my mind at once. I sank to my knees in the grey. What was the point? Why was I even trying? These children were already lost. Everyone was already lost. We're all lost. Nothing matters. Nothing will ever matter again. One of the Silent Kings reached toward me with a pale hand. Not attacking, offering to take away the pain, offering to let me stop fighting, offering peace through surrender. I was about to take that hand. I wanted to take it. I wanted to stop fighting so badly. Then I thought of my sister's wedding. I don't know why that memory came to me. It was 8 years ago. She wore a cream-coloured dress and flowers in her hair. During the ceremony, during the part where the priest was talking about eternal love, she looked at me and crossed her eyes and stuck out her tongue. Just for a second. Just a moment of pure silly joy in the middle of this serious ceremony. I'd laughed so hard I snorted, and then everyone else started laughing. And the whole church dissolved into this moment of shared happiness that had nothing to do with the formal ceremony and everything to do with human connection. I held on to that memory like a lifeline, focused on it, pulled joy from it. The Silent Kings couldn't approach. They retreated step by step as I stood back up. Strong, positive emotion seemed to repel them. They existed on despair. Joy was poison to them. I found both girls. Ingrid first, then Astrid. I took one hand in each of mine, started speaking their names. Ingrid and Astrid Lindström. Your mother is Karin. Your father is Eric. You have a dog named Benny. You like strawberries. You hate broccoli. You are loved. You are missed. Come home. The return was violent. All three of us snapped back at once, and the force of it threw Leonide and Catherine backward. They crashed into the walls. The room shook. Windows cracked. I brought both girls back. But I collapsed immediately upon return and was unconscious for 6 hours. When I woke, I was in a hospital bed with Hugo sitting beside me, reading. I had no memory of coming back to the real world. My last memory was still in the grey, running through the fog with the twins, feeling the pull of the tether. Then, nothing. Then, waking up in the hospital. Those missing 6 hours still terrify me. What happened during that time? Where was my consciousness? Was I still partially in the grey? Did something follow me back? The fourth retrieval was Antoine Moreau, in Lyon, France. 11 years old, lost for 2 weeks. The longest case yet. When I arrived, his parents looked like they'd aged a decade. His father had lost 30 pounds. His mother had stopped sleeping entirely. Catherine anchored despite her rapidly deteriorating health. She was getting weaker. The retrievals were taking something from her. Each one cost her more. The moment I entered the grey, I knew something fundamental had changed. The fog was organised now, flowing in currents like water, like rivers and streams. It had structure, topology. The grey was adapting, learning, evolving. It was responding to our intrusions, changing itself to counter us. I found Antoine using the medallion, but his soul looked wrong. Grey and sick, fading at the edges like a photograph left in the sun too long. His outline wasn't crisp. He was blurring into the fog. "I'm becoming like them, Father," he told me, his voice distant and dreamy. "I can feel myself forgetting I was ever alive. It's easier here, quieter. No one gets hurt in the grey. No one feels pain or fear or anger. It's peaceful. Why would I want to go back to a world with pain? Why would anyone choose suffering over peace?" He didn't want to come back. He'd been there too long. 2 weeks had felt like years to him, and he'd adapted. He'd started to accept the grey as reality, and life as the dream. I had to drag him, fighting and screaming. He clawed at me, kicked, bit my hand hard enough to draw blood. The extraction was violent and traumatic for both of us. Other souls, the lost ones who stand motionless, turned their heads to watch as we passed. I'd never seen them move before. It was horrifying, dozens of empty faces turning in unison to track our movement. Antoine survived, his soul reconnected to his body. But he wasn't right. The doctors could find nothing physically wrong, but psychologically he was shattered. He was hostile toward his family, flinching away from their touch. He kept saying he wanted to go back. "It's better there," he'd say over and over. "Take me back, please. It's so loud here, so bright, so much sensation. I can't stand it. I want the quiet." Psychiatrists couldn't explain his condition. They'd never seen anything like it. Severe PTSD from a coma. That was their best diagnosis. They prescribed medications that didn't work. Therapy that didn't work. Nothing worked because they were treating symptoms of a problem they didn't understand and couldn't see. I'd saved his life, but I'd also forced him back into a world he no longer wanted to be part of. Was that mercy or cruelty? I still don't know. The 5th retrieval was supposed to be routine. Sofia Ricci, 9 years old, in Naples, Italy. The same city where I'd retrieved Luca Romano 3 weeks earlier. She lived 4 blocks from the Romano family. 4 blocks, walking distance. Pietro realized it immediately when he saw the address. It's targeting the same areas. It's studying our success patterns, learning where we can retrieve, learning our methods. It's intelligent, strategic. It's testing us. This is a trap, Dominic. This has to be a trap. We debated calling it off, argued for 3 hours, but Sophia's family was desperate. Her mother called every day, sometimes multiple times a day, begging for help. Her father threatened to go to the media, to expose everything if we didn't help. We decided to proceed, but with extra precautions. Leonide and Hugo both anchored this time, a double tether for extra security. 2 voices reciting the Psalm of Return in perfect synchronization. Catherine was too weak to help. She stayed upstairs to pray, her voice barely a whisper now. I entered the grey at 9:37 in the evening on November 7th, 2019. Something was immediately wrong. The fog was completely still. No movement at all. Not a current, not an eddy, not even a drift. The silence was even deeper than usual, oppressive, crushing, like being buried alive. My ears rang from the pressure of it. The medallion wasn't pulsing. It hung dead around my neck. No light, no warmth, no direction. It wasn't leading me anywhere. I realized too late Sophia's soul wasn't here. She'd never been brought to the grey. This was an ambush. This was a trap, and I'd walked right into it. The fog parted like a curtain being drawn, by invisible hands. Slowly, deliberately, dramatically. Something massive was moving in the distance. I couldn't see it clearly at first, just a shadow within the fog, but it was approaching. As it came closer, the scale became apparent, impossibly large. I couldn't make out any specific form. It was like trying to see an entire mountain range when you're standing at its base. Your perspective cannot contain it. Your mind cannot process the scope. It fills your entire field of vision and extends beyond in every direction. The presence was overwhelming, not just physically large, but spiritually vast. It pressed down on my consciousness like a weight. My courage failed. The thing that had kept me going through 4 retrievals just evaporated. My knees buckled. I fell to whatever passed for ground in the grey. And that's when I felt it. Not a voice, not words spoken aloud. The communication appeared directly in my mind, bypassing my ears entirely. Thoughts that weren't my thoughts. Words that weren't spoken. Pure meaning injected into my consciousness. Dominic Ashford. I felt it taste my name, rolling it around like wine. Thief of souls. Breaker of the grey. I am the shepherd. I am the master of this realm. I am the keeper of the lost. You have stolen from me. You have taken what is mine. You will pay the harvest price. It spoke through my own thoughts, violating the most intimate space I had, using my own internal voice, making it impossible to tell where my thoughts ended and its words began. I am ancient, small priest. I existed before your species learned to speak, before you had language, before you buried your dead. Every culture's underworld is a distorted memory of me, of this place, of the grey. The Greeks called it Hades. The Norse called it Hell. The Egyptians called it Duat. All of them were describing me. All of them were trying to map the territory of my domain. For millennia, I collected only souls that wandered here. Naturally, the confused, the traumatized, the ones who couldn't let go, the ones who died suddenly and didn't realize they were dead. They would wander into my territory and I would claim them. It was the natural order. But humanity is multiplied. The shepherd's presence pressed harder. So many of you now. Billions. So many souls being born and dying every moment. So much fear. So much death. So much spiritual energy. I've grown powerful enough to reach into your world. To pull souls from their bodies directly. To harvest instead of waiting for wanderers. I was going to be sick. This thing was talking about people like they were crops. Like they were livestock. Those 6 children were experiments. Testing the boundaries. Testing the strength of the barrier between worlds. I found I can take souls from spiritually sensitive children most easily. Their light shines brighter. Their spiritual energy is purer, uncorrupted by years of doubt and cynicism and pain. They taste better. Much better. The difference between eating fresh fruit and eating rotten meat. I prefer fresh souls. You're talking about children, I managed to say, my voice shaking. Human beings. People with families who love them. Love. The shepherd's presence shifted, and I felt something like amusement. A concept created by evolution to ensure offspring survival. A chemical reaction in meat brains. It means nothing to me. I do not love, I do not hate. I am hunger, I am patience, I am eternal. I simply am. Now I expand. Hundreds. Thousands. An endless feast. There are 8 billion of you now, and more being born every second. I could harvest 1,000 souls a day, and you wouldn't even notice the statistical change. An endless, renewable resource. I've been hungry for so long, small priest. So very long. Imagine starving for millennia, sustaining yourself on scraps. Now imagine a feast with no end. That is what your species represents to me. Now I consume. Now I finally eat my fill. Then came the offer, and it was worse than any threat could have been. You have spirit, Dominic Ashford. Determination, courage, qualities I can use. Most humans break so easily. They see me and their minds shatter like glass. But you have seen me and remained functional. Impressive. I could use one like you. Stay, serve me. Help me select which souls to harvest. You understand humans better than I do. You can identify the ones whose absence would cause the least disruption. The lonely ones. The forgotten ones. The ones no one would miss. Help me be efficient. Help me feed without attracting attention. I will grant you power in this realm. You will become my hunter in the world of flesh. Draw children to me. Use your position as a priest. They trust you. Use that trust. In exchange, I spare everyone you love. Images flooded my mind. Vivid and detailed. My sister Elizabeth and her 3 children, ages 9, 6 and 3. My elderly mother, in her nursing home in Brighton, confused and frightened by dementia. Father Leonid, broken and scarred. Sister Catherine, blind and hollow. Dr. Hugo, exhausted and afraid. Archbishop Pietro, ancient and burdened. I saw each of them with empty eyes. I saw their souls being torn from their bodies. I saw them screaming silently in the grey, lost forever. All of them were marked now because of me. The shepherd could reach them at any time, take their souls, leave them as empty vessels, make their families watch them breathe without living. Unless I agreed to serve, unless I became a hunter of children, unless I betrayed everything I was. No, I said. The word came out as barely a whisper. I reject you. I reject your offer. I reject your authority over these souls. In the name of... Your God has no power here. The words cut through my prayer like a knife through butter. This is my realm. I was here before your God. I will be here after your God. Your prayers are echoes in an empty room. Your blessed oils are droplets in an ocean. Your faith is a flickering candle in infinite darkness. You are alone, Dominic Ashford. Truly alone. And you will break. All humans break eventually. Some quickly, some slowly, but all break. It is the nature of finite beings facing infinite pressure. You are finite. I am infinite. The outcome is inevitable. The pressure increased. It felt like being crushed, like the entire weight of the grey was pressing down on me. Not just physical pressure, but spiritual, psychological, existential pressure. The weight of meaninglessness, the weight of insignificance. What did any of this matter in the face of something eternal? What did my life matter? What did any human life matter? We were insects, mayflies, here and gone in cosmic eye blinks. Back in the real world, my body was in distress. Leonid told me later I was bleeding from my eyes and nose and ears, blood running freely down my face. They were screaming my name, trying to pull me back through the tether. The rope was smoking, beginning to fray, the ancient fibers giving way. They had maybe 30 seconds before it snapped completely. I gripped the white stone with both hands, feeling its cold, smooth surface. The stone that remembers home. I am Dominic Ashford, I whispered. I am alive. I am loved. I am not alone. I serve something greater than fear. I serve hope. I serve love. I serve the belief that every life matters. Every soul is precious. Every child deserves to be saved. I remembered Catherine's blind eyes and the strength in them. The way she sat so still, holding the tether, never wavering despite the pain. Leonid's scarred hands that still performed blessings with gentle precision. Hugo's exhausted face as he studied ancient texts by candlelight night after night, refusing to give up. Pietro's determination to protect children he would never meet, whose names he would never know. I remembered Luca's mother crying with joy when her son said "Mama." I remembered Elise's father kissing his daughter's forehead when she came back. I remembered the Lindstrom twins holding each other, reunited, whole. I pulled strength from these memories. Not my strength, their strength. The strength of everyone who refused to give up, everyone who fought, everyone who believed that love was stronger than hunger, that hope was stronger than despair, that light could exist in darkness. You said God has no power here, I said, and my voice was stronger now. But hope does, love does, memory does. These children are not yours. They are remembered. They are loved. That is stronger than your hunger. That is why you'll never win. Because we will never stop coming for them, never. You can kill me. You can kill everyone I love. But someone else will come. Someone will always come. Because that's what we do. We save each other. That's what makes us human. That's what you'll never understand because you've never been anything but alone. The shepherd screamed. This time it was an actual sound. Physical. Deafening. The first real sound I'd heard it make. The grey itself shook. The fog writhed like something alive and in agony. The stone in my hands began glowing brightly, almost burning hot, responding to my defiance. I was pulled backwards so violently I felt something rip inside me, something fundamental. The tether rope snapped completely, the ancient fibres giving way with a sound like a whip crack. Leonid and Hugo were thrown backward by a spiritual force that left scorch marks on the walls in the shape of massive handprints. Windows shattered. Furniture flew across the room. I burst back into reality, my body seizing and convulsing on the floor. It took 4 minutes to stabilize me, 4 minutes of violent convulsions, of choking, of drowning in air. When consciousness finally returned, when the world stopped spinning and I could focus, I realized I couldn't hear anything from my right ear. Complete hearing loss. Permanent. The vision in my left eye was blurred like looking through frosted glass, and it still hasn't fully recovered. Colours are muted, details are fuzzy, but the worst part was the sensation that hadn't stopped. I could feel the shepherd's attention on me, even in the waking world, even surrounded by people, even in bright sunlight. My peripheral vision constantly shows grey fog at the edges. Sometimes I turn my head quickly trying to catch it, but it's always just out of direct sight. It moves when I move. It watches when I watch. It's always there now, always watching, always waiting. I can feel its hunger like a cold wind on the back of my neck, like breath on my skin when I'm alone. There was an emergency Vatican meeting on November 15th, 2019. I had retrieved 5 of the 7 children successfully. The 5th retrieval, Sophia, had never actually happened. That had been the trap. The 6th child, a boy named Pavel in Prague, died before we could attempt retrieval. His family waited too long to contact us, and by the time we arrived, he was gone. The 7th child, a girl in Dublin named Siobhan O'Brien, was still alive. Her family was begging for help, calling every day, sending letters written in shaking handwriting. The Vatican Council wanted to stop. It was too dangerous. The shepherd knew who I was targeting me specifically, had marked everyone I loved. "We must stop," Pietro said, and I could see it was killing him to say it. Could see the weight of the decision crushing him. This was a mistake. We were arrogant. The church stopped retrievals 500 years ago for good reason. Our predecessors weren't cowards. They were wise. They understood the cost was too high. I stood up from my chair, injured and exhausted, my body held together by painkillers and determination. 7 children. I saved 5. 1 died. 1 remains. Her name is Siobhan O'Brien. She's 10 years old. She likes horses and painting. Her favourite colour is purple. Her mother teaches music at the local school. Her father builds ships at the harbour. She's been lost in the grey for 9 days. Every day there feels like a month to her. She is terrified. She is alone, and she is waiting for someone to care enough to bring her home. I'm going to Dublin. With or without approval. With or without help. Even if I have to walk into the grey one last time and never come back. I'm going. Catherine stood, weak and ill, her blind eyes wet with tears. I'll anchor you, Dominic. One more time. Leonid nodded. I'll go as spiritual backup. We finish what we started. Hugo closed his books carefully, methodically. I'll monitor vitals and maintain wards. I'm with you. Pietro looked at each of us for a long moment. I saw the conflict in his face, the terrible weight of leadership. Then he nodded slowly. God forgive us all. Go. Bring her home. And may the Lord have mercy on our souls, because the shepherd will not. We travelled to Dublin on November 18th, 2019. The O'Brien family home was small but filled with love. Every surface was covered with photographs and children's drawings. The walls were a gallery of Siobhan's life. Birthday parties and holidays and everyday moments captured and preserved. Siobhan's room had paintings everywhere, taped to every wall, covering the ceiling. Horses mostly, running free across fields under blue skies. We prepared at 2:47 in the morning. The entire team was assembled around Siobhan's small bed, all of us aware this might be the last attempt. If the shepherd attacked again with full force, we might all be lost. We might all end up as empty vessels, our souls trapped forever in the grey, wandering among the countless forgotten. I entered the grey one, final time. The fog was hostile immediately, thick and pressing, almost solid. Wailing Ones everywhere, dozens of them forming barriers and walls. Silent kings in the distance, at least 20 of them, their presence pressing down like physical weight, the weight of absolute despair, the certainty of failure. But I pushed through. The medallion was pulling me towards Siobhan, weak but insistent. I had to go. I had to try. What else was there to do? Give up? Let her be lost? No, never. I found her nearly faded, almost transparent, almost one of the permanent lost ones. Her soul was barely holding together, wisps of her breaking off and dissolving into the fog. She was sitting cross-legged, humming tunelessly to herself, and when I approached she didn't seem to see me at first. I grabbed her hands. They felt like smoke, insubstantial. "Siobhan, your mother is singing for you. Can you hear her? Listen." And then, impossibly, I heard it, faintly. So faintly I almost thought I imagined it, through the thick fog of the grey, through the barrier between worlds. A woman's voice singing an Irish lullaby. Catherine had convinced Siobhan's mother to sing during the retrieval, to create a secondary tether, a rope made of love and memory instead of physical matter, sound as anchor. Siobhan's eyes focused, really focused, seeing me for the first time. "Mama, is that Mama singing?" "Yes, she's singing for you. She's calling you home. Take my hand. We're going back together." That's when the shepherd descended. The entire grey shook, not like an earthquake, like reality itself was having a seizure. The fog writhed like something alive and in pain. Colours that don't exist flashed at the edges of perception. Sounds that couldn't be sounds. Smells that couldn't be smells. My senses were screaming, overloaded with impossible input. "You dare return?" The shepherd's voice filled every inch of the grey, filled every inch of my mind. After our conversation, after my warning, after I showed you mercy by letting you leave, you dare steal from me again. "Always," I said, gripping Siobhan tight. "Every time, for every lost child, until you stop taking them or until I'm lost too. Those are the only two ways this ends. So be it." The harvest continues. The feast grows. You have merely delayed the inevitable. You saved 5 children. 5. I have taken 37 more since we last met. While you travelled and prepared and argued with your superiors, I fed, I feasted, and I will continue. Your efforts are a drop in an ocean, a candle fighting a hurricane. You cannot win, Dominic Ashford. But know this, you have made an enemy of something eternal. I will feast on those you love. I will take them one by one, and you will watch, helpless, knowing their suffering is your fault, knowing you could have prevented it by serving me. Every empty vessel from this day forward is on your conscience. Every lost soul is your responsibility. Every grieving family is your failure. You did this. You chose this. Live with that burden until it crushes you. Then, when you finally break, when you finally beg me to make it stop, I will take you too, and you will wander my realm forever. Another lost soul, another forgotten name, another failure. That is your future, priest. That is what awaits you. I gripped Siobhan tighter, pulled out the white stone with my free hand, held it so hard the edges cut into my palm. I am Dominic Ashford. I am alive. I love and am loved. I am not alone. I remember my name. I remember my purpose. I remember why I'm here. I thought of Siobhan's mother singing. Thought of that voice penetrating the grey, reaching across worlds, calling her daughter home. That was love. Real love. The kind that crosses between life and death. The kind that refuses to give up. The kind that makes you a priest in the first place. We returned. Both of us. Together. The snap back to reality was violent and disorienting. Colours too bright. Sounds too loud. Sensation overwhelming after the muted nothing of the grey. Siobhan gasped and cried and reached for her mother, who was there, who had never stopped singing even as tears streamed down her face. I collapsed. 3 ribs broken from the violence of the return. Internal bleeding, hospitalised for 5 days. But Siobhan was alive. Siobhan was home. That was 3 years ago. Since then, there have been 37 more cases of empty vessel syndrome. Just as the shepherd promised. 37. I've attempted retrieval on 21. Successfully returned 19 souls. 2 were lost forever. I was too late. By the time I arrived, they'd been in the grey for weeks. Their souls had faded, dissolved, become part of the fog. They weren't people anymore. Just echoes. Just memories of memories. I'm recording this now because I need someone to know what happened. What's still happening. What will keep happening. Catherine died 4 months ago. The retrievals she anchored for me damaged her soul beyond repair. Weakened what little remained after her own retrieval decades ago. She told me she didn't regret it. She smiled when she said it, her blind eyes somehow still full of light. Every child I helped you save lived the life they wouldn't have had, she said. That's worth my soul. That's worth 10 of my souls. I hope she was telling the truth. I hope she wasn't just trying to make me feel better about killing her. Because that's what I did. I killed her slowly. Every retrieval took a piece of her until there was nothing left. Leonid disappeared 6 weeks ago during a retrieval in Moscow. We haven't found him. Hugo searches the grey every night now, risking his own soul. But there's no sign. I think the shepherd took him. I think it's keeping him there as a message to me. Probably standing somewhere in that endless fog. Another motionless figure among thousands. Empty eyes staring at nothing for eternity. My friend. My teacher. Lost because of me. Pietro called me yesterday. His voice was shaking. 8 new cases, Dominic. All in the same city. Rome, right here at the Vatican's doorstep. In a single week. 8 children, this has never happened. Never in recorded history has there been this many cases in one location in such a short time frame. The shepherd is getting bolder. It's not hiding anymore. It wants us to know what it's doing. It's making a statement. I know, I said, because I did know. I could feel it. The shepherd was escalating, testing us, pushing boundaries, seeing how much it could take before someone stopped it. And the answer was, no one could stop it. No one had the power. We could only save the children one at a time, while the shepherd took dozens more. I'm going to attempt mass retrieval tomorrow night, I told Pietro. 8 souls at once. I have to try. Silence on the other end. Then, you won't survive. I know, Dominic. I know, Pietro. Believe me, I know. But what else can I do? Let them be lost? Let 8 families suffer because I was too afraid to try? More silence, then quietly. May God be with you. And if he isn't, may you find peace in the grey. You've earned it. I'm going to attempt the retrieval tonight. 8 children, 8 souls. All taken within days of each other. All from the same neighbourhood in Rome. The shepherd is playing with us now, showing us what it can do, demonstrating its power. No one thinks I'll survive. They're probably right. Hugo has told me the numbers. The chances of successfully retrieving 8 souls simultaneously are less than 1%. The chances of surviving the attempt are even lower. The strain on my body will be enormous. The strain on my soul might be fatal. But here's what I know. Here's what keeps me going, even when I'm terrified. Every soul I've brought back remembers being lost. Remembers the fear, the loneliness, the slowly dawning realization that no one was coming. That they'd been forgotten. That they'd die in that grey fog without ever seeing their families again. And then they remember someone did come. Someone cared enough to walk into hell and bring them home. That memory of being saved when you thought all hope was gone, that stays with them forever, changes them fundamentally, makes them stronger, makes them believe that the world, despite everything, despite all the darkness and pain, has good in it, has people who will fight for strangers, has love that crosses between worlds. Luca Romano is 11 now. He wants to be a priest, tells everyone who will listen that he wants to help lost people the way someone helped him. His mother sends me letters. She tells me he's kind and brave and certain of his purpose in a way most adults never achieve. Elise Hoffman draws pictures of angels now. Beautiful detailed drawings. She gives them to children in hospitals, tells them the angels will protect them. She believes it completely. The Lindstrom twins, Ingrid and Astrid, they're inseparable. They hold hands constantly, even in their sleep, terrified of being separated again. But they're alive, they're together, they're whole in a way they wouldn't have been without intervention. Antoine is harder. He still struggles, still talks about wanting to go back to the grey sometimes. But last month, his mother sent me a letter. She said he'd smiled at breakfast. Actually smiled. First time in 2 years, he'd been watching the sunrise and said, "It's beautiful, Mama." I'd forgotten how beautiful mornings are. Small victory. But it counts. Every small victory counts. Siobhan paints horses running free across fields. In every painting, without exception, there's a small figure in the distance. A man in dark clothes. She told her mother, "It's the man who brought her home." "I never forget to include him," she said, "because he never forgot me." So, if tomorrow I enter the grey, and the shepherd finally claims me, if I become another lost soul, wandering that fog forever, at least I'll know this. 19 children are alive because I tried. 19 families are whole because someone refused to accept that some souls can't be saved. 19 people know that when they were lost in the dark, someone came looking, someone fought, someone cared. My name is Father Dominic Ashford, and if you're hearing this recording, it means I didn't come back from Rome. To whoever the Vatican chooses next, whoever inherits this impossible mission. The tether rope is in the archive, level 17, box 1, 43. The medallion of St. Christina is in box 144. The white stone that isn't from Earth, I'm wearing it. You'll find it with my body. The blessed oil is completely gone. used in the retrievals. You'll need to make more. The formula is in box 145. It takes 6 months of rituals and blessings. Start now. And remember, the shepherd is patient. It's existed for millennia. It will wait for you to make a mistake. It will watch you. It will study you. It will learn your patterns and your weaknesses. Don't give it anything to exploit. Stay focused. Stay faithful. Stay human. And remember the children. Remember their faces. Remember their names. That's what the shepherd can never do. It sees them as food, as energy, as resources. You see them as people, as souls worth saving. That difference is everything. That difference is why we fight even when we can't win. Someone has to stand between the darkness and the children. Someone has to say no to ancient evils. Someone has to believe that every soul matters. That might as well be us. The date on this recording is November 22nd, 2022. Father Dominic Ashford attempted retrieval of 8 souls in Rome on November 23rd, 2022. He entered the Drowning Grey at 11:34 in the evening. The attempt was made in a neutral location, a church basement with all 8 families present. Hugo Laurent anchored. Archbishop Pietro Valente provided spiritual support. Father Ashford did not return. His body remains in a comatose state at an undisclosed Vatican medical facility. His eyes remain open, staring at nothing. Medical staff report his vitals are stable. Heart rate slow but regular. Breathing shallow but consistent. Brain activity minimal but present. He shows no signs of consciousness. No response to stimulus. No indication of awareness. His family visits daily. His sister Elizabeth brings her children. His mother, when she has lucid moments, sits beside his bed and prays the rosary. Friends and colleagues from around the world send letters and prayers. Medical staff report that sometimes late at night when the hospital is quiet and empty, they hear him whispering in his sleep. The words are barely audible, but they've been recorded. I found them. I found all 8, but I can't find my way home. The path is gone. The tether broke. I'm lost now. Someone please come for me, please. I'm so lost in the grey. Everything is grey. I can't remember my name. I can't remember why I came here. I can't remember faces anymore. Please, someone remember me. Someone come for me. Don't let me become one of them. Don't let me forget. Please. Please. The whispers continue every night. Always the same. Always desperate. Always fading a little more. In the Vatican archive, level 17, box 143 sits open and empty. The ancient tether rope is gone. Someone has taken it. Box 144 sits open and empty. The medallion of Saint Christina has been removed. Someone has claimed it. Box 145, which contained the formula for blessed oil, has been opened. The formula copied. Work has begun. Somewhere in the world, someone new has accepted the mission. Someone new will walk into the Drowning Grey. Someone new will face the shepherd. The harvest continues. Children are still being taken. Their souls pulled from their bodies and dragged into that grey fog. The numbers are increasing. 20 cases last month, 33 this month. The shepherd is getting bolder, taking more, feeding more openly. And the Drowning Grey waits, always waiting, patient and eternal and hungry. Father Dominic Ashford's body breathes in a hospital bed. His soul wanders in grey fog, and somewhere in that endless mist, 8 children walk free because someone cared enough to try. Because someone refused to accept that some souls can't be saved. The mission continues. The fight continues. Someone will always come for the lost children. Someone will always fight the darkness. That's what makes us human. That's what the shepherd will never understand. That's why, despite everything, despite the costs and the losses and the pain, We keep trying. We keep fighting. We keep hope alive, even in the drowning grey. And especially in the drowning grey, because that's where hope is needed most.